A hand rises, clutching a glowing orb pulsing with the power of beings who have transcended human limits. Purple Mask's aura flares violently, the glowing orb in his grasp thundering with raw, unstoppable power. Purple Mask clenches his fists as a sudden bang echoes, shattering the tense silence between them. Purple Mask launches a devastating punch, shattering the air with raw power. His strike sets the battle ablaze, forcing everyone to react or fall. Hero hurls a blazing fireball that erupts into a furious explosion, engulfing the room in scorching flames and forcing everyone to scramble for cover. Hero strides through the crowd, claws ready, as cheers erupt around him like a storm. Hero snaps his helmet into place, a sharp clack breaking the silence as he senses something off. He scrolls through the phone, eyes locked on the masked figure demanding respect and adoration from the crowd. Mina Kong and the random person lean in, voices buzzing as they replay the moment he crushed the giant with a single strike, crowning him a true hero. Random person leans in, spotting a detail that changes everything about the hero's strike. Juwon Lee blushes, gripping his phone as the other man stares, whispering, "Doesn't he look a bit like seeing up?" Random person bursts out laughing, mocking the idea with a disgusted grin, while Juwon Lee tries to keep his composure, clearly uncomfortable. Juwon Lee cracks his knuckles, eyes flicking to his buzzing phone as the blonde man raises his bottle, rallying the group with a challenge. Juwon Lee leads the way down the alley, his sharp weapon glinting under the dim streetlights as the two men follow close behind. Blue-haired woman formal and brown-haired man suit exchange sharp words across the desk as news breaks of the Gothamite hero's ceiling rush. Juwon Lee cracks open the door with a decisive clunk, stepping into the tense hallway. Juwon Lee taps his phone against the table, sending a sharp message. "I'm here." Hero crashes down onto the wooden floor with a heavy thud, ready for whatever comes next. Juwon Lee snaps at Hero for lifting the visor, warning about the chaos if anyone finds out. Juwon Lee snaps, clacking something sharply as he orders, "Stop worrying so much." Juwon Lee wipes sweat from his brow, breathing a relieved phew, while cursing the unbearable heat inside. Juwon Lee pulls off his black jacket as the man in the white shirt argues about publicity and knowledge, tension thickening the room. Juwon Lee stands with hands in pockets as the other red-haired man points at him, awkwardly admitting, sorry, after calling him creepy for looking like his face. Juwon Lee stares down as blue energy crackles fiercely beneath his feet, ready to ignite the next move. Juwon Lee winces as the electric surge bites into his skin, pain flashing across his face. Juwon Lee crackles with static electricity as he grimaces, disgusted by the eerie perfection of the copied appearance. Juwon Lee's hand lashes out, grabbing his attacker by the throat mid-sentence, cutting off any protest. A man smirks mischievously, taunting Juwon Lee about the girls while savoring the moment. One Juwon Lee taps the other's shoulder, assuring him this isn't his first time stepping in, and the other nods, relieved. He tosses his suit jacket aside with a sharp, "Here, get my suit clean, would ya?" Juwon Lee slams the door shut with a sharp "Peace," while the other Juwon Lee stares in stunned silence, questioning if he's a hero or a gangster. Juwon Lee shoves forward, ripping off his hat with a fierce declaration, "I also have powers," as the tension spikes instantly. Juwon Lee pushes the door open with a creak, stepping into the hallway, clutching his bag tight. Juwon Lee exhales sharply, his voice cutting through the tension as he warns, "But just because you have power doesn't mean that you're a hero." Mina Kong pulls Juwon Lee into a steady hug while he points forward, declaring, "Rather than living as a hero." Juwon Lee walks steadily, clutching his bag as he insists, "I live life as a normal person." Explosions rip through the city as buildings crumble and smoke billows, marking the chaos unleashed when superpowers emerged 20 years ago. Purple Mask hoists a car over his head as bullets tear through the air, defying the hail of gunfire with raw strength. Bullets ricochet harmlessly off the blue-haired woman formal, her calm voice cutting through the chaos as shock ripples through the attackers. An explosion erupts, hurling debris and dust into the air with a deafening bang. Purple Mask leaps into the air, his red eye blazing as he hoists a car overhead, ready to slam it down with brutal force. Shocked Man screams in terror as the crushing impact echoes through the air. The gavel slams down, sealing the harsh divide between those branded villains for defying laws and vigilantes upholding them. Lights blaze through the villain headquarters as the night deepens under the cold gaze of the moon. Pink-haired woman laughs off the hero-villain laws as Nemesis listens, a sly smile playing on his lips. Shocked Man mocks the fear of the police while others lounge carelessly, underestimating the threat creeping closer. Blue-haired woman formal sips her drink, taunting the hero's reckless bravado as shards of broken glass scatter from his sudden strike. Red Cape strides through the shattered glass, each step echoing with clinks and clangs that challenge the silence. Nemesis laughs coldly as two distorted faces mock his red jacket and call his name like a curse. Juwon Lee points sharply and declares he will punish Nemesis, invoking the first hero-villain law with deadly intent. Pink-haired woman and two random people laugh casually on the couch as Juwon Lee's pointed finger cuts through the tension. Nemesis steps forward with a sly smile as pink-haired woman fires back. "I don't know what hole you crawled out of." Tension snapping like a live wire. The glowing blue-haired figure surges forward, purple energy crackling as he snarls, "Know your place," and closes the distance with ruthless speed. Purple Mask charges a fierce energy attack, his fist crackling with deadly electricity as he lets out a powerful whoosh. The building crumbles violently, sending a shower of debris crashing down into the dark streets below. Purple Mask slams into the cracked pavement, sending shockwaves through the street as Red Cape advances with cautious steps. A mysterious figure emerges from the smoke, declaring, "The name is Justice," as Red Cape reels back, stunned. Hero slashes through the darkness, shouting, "And I am a hero," as the era of heroes ignites. But shadows loom over this newfound justice. A hand crackles with static electricity as a voice admits their only power is to mimic others' appearances. Juwon Lee opens the door cautiously, hand reaching out as doubt creeps in. He admits he can't fight villains like this. Juwon Lee sits on the floor, tying his shoes with a frustrated sigh, mumbling about heroes living the good life while he's stuck like this. Juwon Lee grips two phones, admitting his illegal use of abilities, but clings to the hope they still serve a purpose. Juwon Lee rips open the paper bag, eyes locking onto its contents with a mix of hope and hesitation. He clenches the crumpled paper, sneering that heroes are just chasing money in the end. Juwon Lee stretches lazily, declaring he'll work his ass off just to retire by 50. Loud banging echoes from the door as Juwon Lee spins toward it, eyes wide with surprise. Juwon Lee mutters in frustration and moves toward the door, shouting, "Geez. All right, I'm coming." Juwon Lee swings the door open and freezes as glowing eyes pierce the darkness, a chilling presence blocking his way. Juwon Lee in the black jacket demands the other Juwon Lee admit to illegal work impersonating heroes, leaving the man in the white hoodie stunned and stammering for justice. Juwon Lee offers a surprising proposal, demanding the other man's services, leaving him caught off guard and speechless. Juwon Lee points sharply, voice laced with disbelief as he demands, "You? But what for?" Juwon Lee's glare sharpens as he snaps, "I was told you don't ask questions. What changed?" His voice cuts through the tension, leaving no room for hesitation. Juwon Lee snaps open the briefcase and slams down the documents, declaring, "I brought over everything that you'll need for this." They flip through the papers, pausing on one with a missing photo, and say, "There's no picture of your face here." Juwon Lee grabs the collar tight and snarls, "Is this enough?" as his sharp weapon glints under the bright light. Random person nods with a smile and asks, "So, when do we start?" The reply comes sharp and clear, "Tomorrow." Juwon Lee slams a card with an address into the other's hand, demanding, "Come to the address listed here," while the man in the doorway stammers, caught off guard. Juwon Lee stares intently as the man under the streetlight studies the card, muttering, "Achum," with cautious curiosity. Sunlight glares off the towering skyscraper as the city hums relentlessly beneath its shadow. Juwon Lee glances up in surprise, then frantically checks his phone, struggling to confirm if he's in the right place. Juwon Lee steps toward the arriving elevator, eyes fixed on the opening doors as a single word echoes: justice. Juwon Lee faces Hero, admitting their worlds couldn't be more different. One fights to protect the innocent, the other stands as a stark opposite. Juwon Lee freezes at the doorbell, muttering he can't miss this chance to make a lot of money as he opens the door. Juwon Lee sits silently, staring out the window at the distant globe, lost in thought as the weight of his decision settles in. Juwon Lee steps forward and breaks the silence with a sharp, "Okay, shall we talk business?" as the other man leans in, ready to discuss the first rule, confidentiality. Juwon Lee locks eyes and cuts in sharply, agreement, as the tension snaps tight in the room. Juwon Lee's sharp strike freezes the room, his red hair bristling with shock as the man in white hoodie stares wide-eyed, whispering, "Wah." Juwon Lee's eyes widen in horror as he gasps. "He's dead? The number one hero?" Juwon Lee reaches out with trembling fingers crackling with static electricity as he fights to steady his racing heart and grasp the fading thread of hope. Juwon Lee unleashes a sudden surge of crackling electric energy, striking at his unseen target with raw desperation. Juwon Lee convulses as static electricity crackles wildly from his body, his shock turning into panic. Juwon Lee unleashes a brutal electric shock that sends his opponent crashing to the ground with a heavy thud. Juwon Lee's hand crackles with sudden energy as he stares wide-eyed, caught off guard by the unexpected light. Juwon Lee's hand pulses with raw energy, the glow intensifying as shock flashes across his face. Juwon Lee clutches his wrist, pain ripping through him as he screams, "My hand!" Juwon Lee lies gasping as glowing cracks and static energy surge from his body, shock and confusion ripping through him. Juwon Lee jumps off the giant red hand, shouting he has to get the hell out of here as urgency fuels his every step. Random person bolts up the stairs, desperate to escape the chaos and shouting that they can't get tangled in this mess. Juwon Lee crashes into a bystander, shouting he needs to report this to the Hero Association before chaos spirals further. Juwon Lee clutches his chest in shock as a voice sneers, "Well, well, if it isn't the copycat." Juwon Lee tosses a small object as the black-haired Juwon Lee gasps in shock and relief, realizing Seon-Yu Kim is here to save him despite his flaws. Juwon Lee in the white hoodie clutches his arm defensively as Juwon Lee in the black jacket presses him for answers, tension crackling between them. Juwon Lee cracks his knuckles, voice sharp as he snaps about the cost of his suit, daring the other to challenge him. Juwon Lee spins around, eyes wide at the unexpected sound while the red-haired Juwon Lee points a finger, demanding dry cleaning money with a smirk. Juwon Lee lunges forward, driving his glowing weapon deep with a fierce stab that cuts through the tension like lightning. Juwon Lee doubles over, clutching his stomach in sudden pain, while the other Juwon Lee stumbles back, eyes wide in shock. Dr. Octopus lashes out glowing tentacles, sneering, "After seeing the news, I thought you'd be pretty strong, but you're just a weakling." Juwon Lee in the white hoodie gasps and shouts as the red-haired Juwon Lee brandishes a sharp weapon, facing the villain's writhing tentacles head-on. Man speaking roars, "You bastard," as flames burst from his hand, scorching everything in a confined blaze. Juwon Lee charges forward, wielding a sharp weapon as flames lick his hair, but the blast throws him violently backward. The hero lunges through the smoke, claws out, as Juwon Lee struggles to regain footing amid the fiery chaos. Hero swings his arm with explosive force, cutting through the air as energy crackles around him and a furious voice shouts, You fool. Juwon Lee charges forward, flames roaring from his hands as he slams into the cracked floor with relentless fury. Juwon Lee dashes forward, hurling insults while closing the distance, eyes locked on his target's every opening. Juwon Lee's fists ignite with fiery force as he grabs the random person, squeezing with brutal strength that leaves them gasping in pain. Tentacles erupt from the darkness, snapping and writhing as a cold voice mocks the fool who underestimated their power. Juwon Lee hoists a man into the air, smashing him down with brutal force as bones snap and the crowd gasps in horror. Shocked man blinks in disbelief, whispering, "Seeing you was defeated that easily." Hero summons writhing tentacles that lift the limp figure off the ground with a sharp HMPH. The masked figure in the green cloak hurls Hero across the room with brutal force, sending him crashing to the ground. The masked figure charges forward, delivering a ruthless strike that shatters the hero's defenses and pushes him to his limits. Tentacles lash out violently as the random person falls back, grinning wildly and shouting, "Let's have some fun." Juwon Lee catches his breath, eyes locked on the book as he mutters, "I hope another hero gets here soon," while the green-hooded figure sits silently beside him. The white-haired man demands rescue, but the purple-haired man grins, confident justice will arrive and handle the threat fast. The possessed figure lunges with inhuman fury, while the terrified companion stammers, "But he can't." Two people crouch in fear, covering their heads as the villain snarls about death and the absence of a hero, trapped in hopeless waiting. Juwon Lee trembles in despair, haunted by his powerlessness as a child's sobs echo through the night. Hero's head snaps toward the woman scanning through binoculars, her quiet HM breaking the tense silence. Juwon Lee shouts a desperate warning to run, panic cracking his voice as danger closes in. Hero slashes through the air, unleashing a purple energy portal with a fierce roar. "As if I'd let you run." Random person collapses to their knees, clutching their face as the shock of the attack crashes down. Juwon Lee shouts as dark tentacle-like appendages burst forth, ensnaring the collapsing figure in a deadly grip. Juwon Lee lunges forward, desperate to stop the fall, shouting in "Oh!" as he reaches out with electric energy crackling around him. Juwon Lee strains to grab the writhing tentacle, panic flashing in his eyes as he curses his own helplessness. Juwon Lee yanks a jagged blade free as electric sparks crackle, his desperate grip fueled by a fierce surge of power. The hero's sudden appearance freezes the attacker mid-shout, disbelief cracking through their voice. Red Cape grips the woman tightly, shouting justice as her eyes widen in shock and fear. Juwon Lee crushes the attacker's arm, electric energy crackling as he revels in the overwhelming power surging through him. Red Cape drives a brutal punch upward, sending the green-suited masked fighter flying through the air with a sharp RIP. The purple substance splatters across the hero as he screams in shock, caught off guard in the dark room. He spits out, "I don't know what's going on, but..." As tension tightens near the window, Hero raises his fist, energy crackling as he declares, in accordance with the first hero-villain law, "I will punish you." Redcap and Dr. Octopus stand face to face, tension thick as a fallen figure lies motionless between them. Redcap clenches his fist, unleashing a fierce surge of energy that threatens to overwhelm him completely. Redcap hesitates, wrestling with doubt as he faces his first villain and questions his own strength. Dr. Octopus grits his teeth and extends his mutated hand, warning that the fight isn't over yet. Dr. Octopus regenerates his tentacles rapidly, declaring he can regrow them as much as he wants. Dr. Octopus lunges forward, swinging his regenerating tentacles wildly as he vows to catch his target like the other brat. Redcap stands firm as his cape flows behind him, ready to face the oncoming chaos. Redcap questions the sudden turn of events with a sharp as tension builds indoors. Redcap swings his sword sharply, questioning if his opponent's tentacles have always been this slow. Redcap dodges a purple energy slash, noting the attack's slow speed as he prepares to counter. Redcap dodges the white tentacle attacks with ease, confidently declaring he can easily evade them. Redcap slashes with his sword, catching Dr. Octopus off guard as he exclaims, "What?" Redcap throws a fierce punch, his red cape trailing as he drives forward to break through his opponent's defense. The enraged man's face cracks as his eyes ignite, signaling a surge of raw power ready to unleash in the forest. Redcap lands a solid punch on Dr. Octopus, forcing him to reel back on the urban street. A hand firmly grabs the dagger handle, preparing for the next move. A hand firmly grabs the dagger handle, preparing for the next move. Redcap swings his sword with force, cutting through the air as he aims to strike. Dr. Octopus slams the crumbling figure into the damaged wall and extends his tentacles to trap them. Dr. Octopus strikes the green cloak figure hard, making them recoil in pain with a sharp AGH. Dr. Octopus is thrown back hard across the stone floor as Redcap watches, shocked that a light throw sent him flying that far. Dr. Octopus slumps against the cracked wall, gritting his teeth as he vents his frustration, demanding why this is so ridiculous. Redcap powers up his hand, struggling to control his strength before it causes a dangerous mess. Dr. Octopus stumbles forward, gritting his teeth as he fights to stay upright in the cramped corridor. Redcap dashes forward to confront Dr. Octopus, who struggles to maintain his footing in the cramped corridor. Redcap clenches his fist, powering up as he declares he can finally fight against the villains. Redcap clenches his fist as electricity crackles violently, charging up for the fight ahead. Redcap clutches his hand, eyes wide with surprise as an unexpected power surges through him. Redcap stares at the skeletal hand, confused as his strength suddenly drains away. Redcap stares at the skeletal hand, confused as his strength suddenly drains away. Juwon Lee struggles as his hand glows, shouting he can't maintain the transformation and fearing the same failure as before. Redcap clenches his fist, sweating as he warns, "Not good," while watching Juwon Lee struggle with his unstable transformation. Dr. Octopus rushes forward toward Redcap, who braces himself as tension rises in the large room. Dr. Octopus shouts and unleashes a powerful energy blast that fills the dark room. Dr. Octopus reels back, shielding himself as the explosion rocks the bright sky, scattering debris everywhere. Dr. Octopus crashes hard into the ground, groaning in pain as the impact shakes the room. Redcap rushes forward, eyes locked on Dr. Octopus as the green cloak figure crumbles to the ground. Redcap and an unknown figure step forward as Redcap declares, "I arrived just in time." MIAA Kong runs forward confidently, adjusting her visor as she prepares to confront the threat. MIAA Kong excitedly declares her arrival was expected, catching Redcap off guard as he processes her words. MIAA Kong calls out that someone's super hearing was used to distract their target, confirming their plan to take him down safely. Redcap nervously admits the girl is a hero, and MIAA Kong immediately confirms her suspicions. Redcap praises the pink-hair woman's speed as debris slithers from the wall, blocking their path inside the room. Dr. Octopus dashes through falling rubble, dodging debris while cursing in frustration. MIAA Kong activates her helmet, the visor lighting up as she prepares for what's next. Dr. Octopus is struck by yellow energy beams, his green cloak torn as he grits his teeth against the sudden assault. MIAA Kong taunts the fallen figure in the green cloak, mocking their failed attempt to fight justice as they collapse on the urban street. MIAA Kong scans the empty urban street, shouting in frustration as the target vanishes without a trace. MIAA Kong sulks over missing the autograph while the black-cloaked woman walks away, telling her to get a hold of herself. Purple Mask snaps at MIAA Kong about injured civilians, and MIAA Kong quickly realizes the urgency and agrees to act. MIAA Kong supports the injured Juwon Lee and urgently asks if he's all right, ready to act on his condition. Purple Mask mumbles, "Justice is alive," then slams the door, cutting off the tense moment. Someone dashes out the open door while Purple Mask watches silently. Juwon Lee sprints down the narrow hallway, his footsteps echoing sharply as he pushes forward. Purple Mask breaks the silence with a sharp "HM" as she assesses the situation in the room. Bars snap open as someone forces their way through the barred window outside the brick building. Someone turns the shredder handle and feeds paper into it, destroying the documents inside the building. Someone turns the shredder handle and feeds paper into it, destroying the documents inside the building. Someone pulls the tied trash bag with a sharp tug, testing its resistance as it shifts slightly. Juwon Lee carries the tied bag down the indoor stairs, his grip firm as he moves cautiously. Juwon Lee carries the tied bag down the indoor stairs, his grip firm as he moves cautiously. Juwon Lee sighs heavily and holds his head, wrestling with his next move in the confined room. Juwon Lee holds his chin, realizing the killer who defeated Justice must be even stronger, raising the stakes for what's to come. Juwon Lee scratches his head, admitting he forgot to transform before running away and hopes no one saw him. Juwon Lee flinches sharply as a voice accuses him. "I saw." Juwon Lee stands near the dumpster, scanning the trash bags and traffic cone with a sharp, concerned gaze. Juwon Lee scans the urban streets anxiously, demanding to know where his target has gone after noticing all the evidence is destroyed. Juwon Lee leans closer to the window and sharply commands, "Below you," signaling he's spotted movement beneath. A figure with eyes reaches toward Juwon Lee, who quickly steps back on the paved ground. Juwon Lee is struck by Red Cap and falls backward, screaming in pain inside the tiled room. Purple Mask approaches the seated man and sharply tells him, "You're too loud," cutting through the nighttime silence. Hands wriggle up from the hole, clawing toward the surface with desperate force. A hand grabs a tied bag from the pile, pulling it close with a sharp command. They rip the fabric apart, exposing what was hidden beneath. Purple Mask swings their arms forcefully, breaking through the debris and clearing the path forward. Juwon Lee gasps in shock, unable to believe what just happened behind the barred window. Someone painstakingly arranges all the scattered documents back together on the floor, prompting a shocked reaction. Purple Mask speaks calmly, confirming suspicions as she stands by the barred window in the tiled room. Purple Mask demands confirmation about Justice's corpse, pressing the truth from the listener. Purple Mask spreads her arms and declares she can't let the listener go now that they know the truth. Juwon Lee recoils as dark shadows swirl around him on the street, his shocked reaction cutting through the night. The man in the white shirt dodges the dark slash attack just in time, shouting as the blade cuts through the wooden floor behind him. Juwon Lee crouches on the ground, eyes darting as he realizes she's really trying to kill him in the parking lot. Juwon Lee clenches his fist, charging electric energy as he prepares to strike, declaring he has no choice. Purple Mask holds the injured Red Cap tightly, shouting there's no reason to hold back against Justice's murderer as tension spikes. Red Cap dodges aggressive black tentacles, gritting teeth as he struggles to grab them like before but fails. The masked man insists the situation hasn't changed, challenging Red Cap's struggle against the black tentacles. Red Cap charges at the hooded figure, who swiftly dodges the attack, forcing Red Cap to rely on close combat. Red Cap charges at the hooded figure, who swiftly dodges the attack, forcing Red Cap to rely on close combat. Red Cap's eyes ignite with power as he locks focus, preparing for a decisive strike in the confined space. Red Cap slams his foot down, unleashing a sudden burst of power, then glances back to assess the impact. Juwon Lee grimaces as his eye cracks open, triggering a sudden transformation he desperately tries to resist. An unknown object shoots through the air with a loud whoosh, forcing Juwon Lee to react instantly. Juwon Lee dodges the incoming strike with a sharp grunt, teeth clenched as he braces for the next move. Purple Mask speaks sharply, revealing she anticipated the move and shifts her stance to counterattack. Juwon Lee grips his arm tightly, breathing heavily as electric energy crackles around him while he taunts his opponent for being a mere imitation of justice. Purple Mask darts forward with a swift purple energy trail, mocking the fight with a sharp "how boring." Juwon Lee flinches as a loud bang and crunch shake the room, causing debris to fall around him. Juwon Lee lands forcefully on a rocky ground and immediately clutches his leg as a sharp crack echoes. A man swings a large object toward Juwon Lee, forcing him to brace despite his injured leg. A man punches forcefully at Juwon Lee, who struggles to absorb the impact despite his injured leg. A man punches a large rock with a loud bang, shattering it and clearing the path forward. Purple Mask dashes forward as the man in the white shirt raises a rock to strike. Purple Mask moves swiftly, extending dark tendrils to intercept the man in the white shirt before his rock can strike. Purple Mask moves swiftly, extending dark tendrils to intercept the man in the white shirt before his rock can strike. Juwon Lee lunges forward, extending his arm to strike with the smoky rock, shattering debris around him. Juwon Lee throws a fierce punch at Mia Kong, who braces herself against the impact on the empty street. Purple Mask pulls up her mask with a swift swipe, revealing her face as the tension in the urban alley spikes. A man dashes toward Purple Mask, forcing her to hop back just as she's caught off guard for a moment. Juwon Lee charges forward shouting and raising his fist, determined to keep the pressure up as he closes in. Juwon Lee throws a fierce punch down the dim street, his expression tightening as he aims to break through. Purple Mask raises a clenched fist, declaring the end as Juwon Lee struggles, unable to move despite giving his all. Purple Mask clenches her fist and declares control over the street as Juwon Lee struggles, trapped and powerless in her domain. Juwon Lee clutches his bleeding arm, grimacing sharply as pain overwhelms him in the dark. Feet lift off the ground as Juwon Lee defies his injury, preparing to make a sudden move inside the room. Juwon Lee struggles violently against the black ribbons, binding him while Purple Mask stands firm, blocking any chance of escape. Juwon Lee clutches his chest, gasping as he struggles to breathe under the suffocating grip of the black ribbons. Purple Mask flicks her hand, tightening the black ribbons around Juwon Lee as he chokes and struggles to break free. Purple Mask flicks her hand, tightening the black ribbons around Juwon Lee as he chokes and struggles to break free. Purple Mask snaps fingers, triggering an unseen effect that shifts the room's tension instantly. Juwon Lee collapses forward, hitting the ground hard in the dark outdoor area. Juwon Lee pants heavily, clutching his face in distress as he questions why she let him go. Juwon Lee coughs and steps forward, challenging the hooded figure to continue what they were doing before. Someone grabs Juwon Lee's mouth, cutting off his words as they threaten a dull, normal life. Purple Mask challenges Juwon Lee to abandon his silence and try living as justice instead, pushing him toward a decisive choice. A gloved hand grabs Juwon Lee by the neck, forcing him into a sudden, tense confrontation under the city lights.